Hello. I saw something and I got triggered by this. I want to kind of break it down or caption the idea behind it. So, I fucking hate the stupid shit that like almost all people fucking do. I just can't stand it. It makes me want to tweak out when I see it, and I swear to God, basically all people do this. I've not met exceptions to this. Even pretty intelligent people do this, and it's holding them back, I would say. And but it's mostly common in how should I say? Uh, Everyone does it, but the more intelligent you are, the less you do it. That's kind of generally the trend. But we all do it to some extent. But with dumb people, it's so fucking blatant. It's so fucking obvious. And this is kind of the litmus test that I do for when I watch any form of content, any form of when self-proclaimed expert talks on a topic. What am I doing that a lot of people are not doing that allows me to kind of interpret this on a different level? Uh, what you guys do, I'll just assume you're stupid because that's statistically probable. Um, let's say you are watching this and okay, I'll not say. Let's say a normal person watches a self-proclaimed expert talk about something, and then they see some random shit. For example, you're watching some shorts, and it's like, uh, when flirting. Uh, I'm gonna recall this from memory, uh, and I'll kind of break it down. I'll do my best to recall it. When flirting with people, um, you must uh, this is just an example. I'm trying to recall from memory. When flirting with people, you should um fuck. No, you shouldn't. Fuck. I think it was something like pay attention to them and visibly uh visibly so. This is reduced. It was way kind of longer. Um, but basically, this is like a slightly reduced version of what they were saying. Reduced as in just less words to express, right? And um, I kind of tweaked out before finishing it, so I didn't finish it, but I know where it's gonna go. This will make them feel appreciated, or this will show that you appreciate their being themselves. Pay attention to them talking about their interests. Um, do so in a visible manner. This will show that you appreciate them. Uh, uh, Being themselves or something like that, right? Okay, I think that's closer to give like justice to the original snippet, right? So, when flirting with people, pay attention to them, talking about their interests, do so in an invisible manner. This will show that you appreciate them being themselves. And you look at this and you're like, yes, this is so insightful. Thank you, Doctor Grig Grigovsky or whatever the fuck, right? Thank you. You're so insightful. You're such an expert. You're so smart. And what's the kind of like problem? Where is the problem occurring with this? Let's break down. First of all, what's the like mode of engagement for most people? They see something in shorts, they're like, I hadn't really thought about this before, and it's like this guy looks. Since I'm seeing this in my algorithm, and this person looks um confident when he's saying it, he must be an expert. Therefore, whatever he says must be correct. Okay, I just learned something. Therefore, my oh fuck me, I'm gonna need to explain why people even go down this pattern because it's so fucking obvious. Um, self-worth, self-value. Uh, s- let's just say yeah. So fuck. This is like a fundamental concept I need to explain to for this to make sense. But fuck, it's a little bit long topic on its own. You know what? Fuck it. I'm not gonna explain it for now. Maybe I will do a breakdown video of it later, or I will go into it in a bit, um, in a couple of minutes. But first of all, um, so I'm not gonna explain why people do this, but um, Uh, there is a strong reason, and I'll explain later. But basically, yeah, you see something, he's an expert, and then you think about it, yeah, that is smart, and you want to be smart also because that raises your self value, and you also adopt this smart opinion. You see smart monkey, and you're like, I want to be also a smart big monkey, and you also adopt the belief of that person. And you see that a lot in social dynamics where, let's say, you have a clear hierarchy of um, opinions. Let's say you have some academic environment and you have a professor, right? Or some kind of guy who's like a high status. And then you have some people that are student. Uh, let's say there's different rankings within that. Let's say there's like I'm just gonna say H for are just high and student low in terms of ranking, right? And of course, all the students will have, a ranking within that. And that's going to be kind of subjective, but there's going to be some um, like societal consensus across students about who's like more authoritative and who's less authoritative, who's like more a big authority and who's a small authority. Like in terms of status, they're going to organize themselves, right? And you might have, I don't know, assistant, right? And generally, because you think in these social structures, you assume that um, if there were all of these people were to have completely separate opinions on a topic, you would just go with whoever has the highest amount of um, cred in that environment, who has the highest amount of authority. So you'll just be like, well, if the professor says so and assistant disagrees and all the students disagree, then that must be the professor is correct. Because well, when you're looking at it, because you're like, well, professors obviously, uh, you correlate ranking in terms of like social dominance with, well, for him to be a professor he must be intelligent, right? Therefore, and I want to be intelligent, therefore I'm gonna adopt the belief of the professor. And that is very common. And let's say a professor isn't there, right? Let's say he is in a different room and assistant isn't there, and all the students are chilling and discussing they're debating something, and let's say there isn't a high amount of disparity in the rankings. Let's say they're all about similar rankings, or they have no way of like determining um, decisively on who's like correct or not, right? And most situations are like this. You don't really know how smart or competent people are for a majority um, of the time if you haven't developed those skills for vetting people, which most of you will not have. You think you have, you haven't. You're delusional. And the professor walks into the room, and then whatever he says will settle your debate, and you will all just adopt. Let's say you're discussing different ideas. You're like, "What's the answer to this?" And this person says one. The answer is two. The answer is three. The answer is four. The answer is five. Then the professor walks in and says the answer is two. And then you're like, okay, boss, the answer is two, right? That's kind of what we learned at school. The teacher knows best. We just follow the teacher, right? He's experienced. He knows what he's talking about. And um, generally, not following the kind of status quo, not following the commonly accepted belief or trend, will make you an outcast and make the social group consider you a clown. And even if you are, and that's nothing got to do whether you're correct or not, right? This is just some social politics bullshit, right? So generally, uh, we want to be dominant, therefore we listen more to dominant things. That is a very to more dominant people, and that is a natural, like evolutionary response. It's like you want to get fit, you listen to the guy who has the biggest muscles. You want to get good at something? You listen to the best person at this. You want to be good at this game or sport? You listen to the best people in this sport. Right? So, and that's natural. That's not necessarily a bad instinct. Um, but there is a problem with that, which is it's not really that you, how should I say? It's not really. How it plays out in most situations is you will see that the professor says that the answer is two, and then you think about it no more. You're like, well, the professor said the number is two, therefore the number is two. You consider knowledge as a means to an end. Therefore, uh, once you've got your end, there's no point to kind of assess your knowledge, right? You're like, well, I know the answer is two. I no longer need to think about it, right? A high status person has told me the answer, therefore I'll just go with it. And th- I call this like a lot of the time it's social. Like and sometimes in social circles, what you'll see is some people jumping. Let's say you have a circle where the professor is the authoritative one, right? And then we have another circle where there's a professor B, right? And he disagrees with Professor A because they're also, different. How should I say? They're on the same level, let's say, authoritative wise, but this person is now saying that the answer is not two, the answer is three. And then when all the students, uh, you know, go to the class of the new professor, then whoever said three is no longer the clown. They're now uh, they're holding the socially acceptable uh, position in that environment, and some people will say that the answer is two when they're in the class of Professor A, and when they're in class of Professor B, they'll say the answer is three. Like, so they're not actually, there's no consistency in their answer, Their answer is based on what is the most authoritative, or what answer will give them the most authority locally, or which will make them blend in the best socially. And that is what I call like social chameleons. These are people that switch their positions on some political topics, on some form of anything, right? To kind of blend in to the environment that they're in so that they can dominate. They always have generic things and they always say things that are socially beneficial. For example, you will never see those people argue controversial takes. They always argue from a position that is socially acceptable or locally acceptable. They often bring up arguments such as um, morality, for example, such as the good of the people or whatever. Um, and they're fairly easy to convince just by changing the environment. For example, have you ever argued with someone who's like completely unreachable? Like you can't change his mind until you bring in someone who they listen to and being like, "Hey, can you please like imagine you're like a student and you're just discussing with another student and he's completely like impenetrable. He's completely just not responding to your arguments. He's completely like stuck. And then you just bring in the professor and then you tell him, "Hey, could you uh process these arguments that I'm making and uh, do you have a counter argument or am I correct on this?" And then the professor might say, "Yeah, you're completely valid, you're completely correct." And only then the other student will change their opinion. What has just occurred? This person does not have critical reasoning. This person only trusts authority. As in, they don't have the ability to assess logically your arguments, therefore they just don't, which is why it's impossible to change their opinion. The moment they see a high ranking person who they trust to, and they don't see you as a high ranking person, therefore you're not able to affect them, you're not authoritative enough. The moment that the professor approves of it, that means that now the truth has been revealed, and only then they inherit the truth. They don't actually, or they inherit the new idea. It might not necessarily be true, but they inherit the new idea based on the authority of the person who provides it. And those people, holy fuck, they're amongst us. They're everywhere. Vast majority of people are like this to some degree, and a lot to a great degree, right? This is the average person, and this person has no capability towards critical thinking. In other words, he doesn't have intelligence of his own. He just copies things. He's a chameleon. He's just regurgitating things that he's heard from authoritative sources. He has no, like, it's like ChatGPT. It doesn't actually have any intelligence. It just has um it's able to uh replicate certain patterns and mimic intelligence by kind of regurgitating, repeating um what the answers that it has, that occur in its training data most often. Like when you go to ChatGPT, you shouldn't be looking for the most you shouldn't consider it as a source of truth because it has no reasoning ability. You should look at it as a source of what is the generally accepted answer. Have you ever tried prompting ChatGPT on anything, um, trying to find a unique take? It always gives you the most generic take on everything. And for a lot of things, everyday use, that is completely fine. Um, a lot of things are generic, everyday, mediocre takes are useful. But when you ask it how to get out of, um, when you ask it some specific things that require, um, that how should I say, the generic take is just completely wrong about, it's it just completely like, what? I don't understand. Like, I've asked it a bunch of things about neuroscience. I've asked it a bunch of things about uh, psychology, and it's like the answers it gives are just super generic and are just, if you ask it about anything in your field of like competency, you will notice how it just gives mediocre answers. It doesn't give you expert answers. It doesn't give you, or it depends what field you're in, because who knows, you might be in like a field of fake experts. But if it's something you're remotely good at, you will realize that it doesn't actually give good answers. It gives okay, decent answers, acceptable answers, but not like great answers. Whatever. Um, and a lot of people, so ChatGPT does not actually have intelligence. It has ability to replicate. It has pattern matching. That's not. That's a part of intelligence, but that's not all of it, right? That's why we don't have fucking um, AGI yet, because we haven't been able to recreate intelligence at all. If we had, even to a smallest degree, recreated intelligence, then we would have been able to scale it by now, because that intelligence would have learned how to code and how to make more intelligent intelligence, and then we would have been, already in this exponential progress situation that everyone keeps um, forecasting on these fucking tech podcasts, right? Like, oh, AI will take over in 2 years. Um, Whatever. But that hasn't happened, and that shows that's a testament to we haven't been able to recreate intelligence. So the argument I would make is vast majority of people, they're not just stupid; they don't have intelligence at all. They don't have they don't go through the processes that would make them intelligent or capable of processing ideas. Just finding the most status person and copying their answer is not intelligence. It's not intelligence. It says nothing about your critical thinking. It says more about like, oh, I see guy in suit, he's smarter. I see guy with Rolex, he's better. He's whatever, right? And to some degree that kind of works. Um, and it also kind of doesn't. It's very easy to fool people. It's very easy to create an image of intelligence and just kind of fake your way through it. Um, like how many essays have you written just like for school or for university or whatever you do? How many interviews you got by just by lying and just by bullshitting? And how many people around you did that? A very high percentage of people just chameleon their way into high ranking positions, and then other people use them as a source of authority. Meanwhile, this professor, like, what if he's also a retard? And he also did the same thing. He's like, well, and then he just cited other people throughout his life, and then somehow he ended up in this position of um, authority, even though he himself has no intelligence. That is very common, by the way. So you have like people with no intelligence following other people with no intelligence because of just how many of them there fucking are. It's just like statistically uh, improbable that anyone in given any position has like there is a correlation between intelligence and being able to go higher. But it it's not big enough to say that almost all people in high positions of power are intelligent. They are so rare by proportion that still almost all people in positions of power are going to be retarded, or all people in positions of authority, because their ratios are that fucked up. And the advantage intelligence gives you in climbing society's rankings is not big enough to compensate for that statistical disadvantage you have, right? Okay, super long explanation, but the point is relatively simple. People mimic understanding and just copy paste ideas from people that they think have authority on that subject. They don't do any sort of processing. They don't do any sort of critical reasoning. They don't apply any kind of they don't break down the ideas and actually validate with their experiences whether they're true or not, or whether what they're saying has any value, or what they're taking in has any value. For example, if you read this or if you hear this, you'll think, how insightful! I just learned something new from a relatively interesting, smart guy, and therefore I have become a relatively more interesting and smart guy myself. Therefore, I have become more powerful. And I feel good about myself for learning this, which is why this type of content goes viral, by the way. We have an evolutionary need to learn things and raise our worth by learning things because we think that that makes us, uh, more important, right? And it makes us associate ourselves a little bit with that um, authority. It's like, oh, I listen to authoritative people. That makes me more authoritative person, right? Um, if you're not understanding what I'm talking about, you can just click off. You'll not understand at all because there's so many prerequisites to understanding these ideas that I can't. It'll be a 10-hour long video. Okay, so when flirting with people, uh, uh, let's actually break down what the person has said. Like on paper, this seems like very insightful, very warm, very useful piece of information. And then let's actually break it down, and um, I'll kind of walk you through how what happens in my brain when I see something like this, like what actual fucking reasoning looks like. Okay, when flirting with people, pay attention to them talking about their interest. Uh, do so in a visible manner. This will show that you appreciate them being themselves. First of all, I've already summarized it a lot. The guy in the video that I saw literally said not in a visible manner. He said like look into their eyes and like nod when they're like show excitement and enthusiasm, reciprocate when they're showing it. Uh, or something like that. I don't remember exactly word for word, but it was. I've already summarized it in the way I've put it here a little bit. Um, when flirting with people, this will show that you appreciate them being themselves. I would summarize this whole thing into fake interest. Like, bro, why the fuck did you need to write so many, say so many words to just be like show interest? Unironically, like, but the premise of this is even dumber because I would even go as far as to why the fuck is he even speaking? Because uh, let's say there's someone who is interesting to you, right? And you genuinely have an interest. Oh, wait, one sec. How should I say? Even the fact that even the kind of like idea he's trying to explain, the idea itself is retarded. Because what he basically said is uh to win someone over, show interest. To uh their interests, right? And that could be summarized into to win someone over, show interest, right? Um, and where's the problem with that? Let's say I'm talking about something and you are genuinely interested in what I'm talking about. Do you need to go out of your way to signal that you're interested in what I'm talking about? Or can I see signals from that just based on how you engage with me? For example, I start talking to you about, I don't know, Formula One. I don't care about Formula One, but for sake of the example. And I see your eyes light up and you kind of just come alive the moment I start talking about it. So like that I start talking about something you're generally interested in, right? And that might be an interest for me, and I come alive talking about it as well. Then uh, I will be able to see how excited you are, and then our interest could we could join this dance of interests or whatever. We could entangle in that sense. We could passionately discuss Formula One, right? Uh, it will resonate with both of us, that topic, right? So, uh, like, for, like, how should I say? But if you don't care about Formula One, and I don't see your face light up, and you don't respond in that way, then I see that you don't have the same level of interest with that, right? And the point is kind of like, why would why would you try to win someone over? Like, why would you even try to do that in the first place? Isn't that really fucking retarded? Like, for example, I really enjoy talking about Formula One, right? And then there's some bitch talking to me about fucking, I don't know, Labubu or some shit, some stupid shit, right? And I have officially, for some reason, my goal is to win her over, and I have shown interest in Labubu, and I, uh, I mimic interest. I make my eyes light up. I do a lot of acting, whatever, right? And she's like, "Wow, he also likes Labubu," and uh, based off of that, we passionately make out a couple of hours later because she's like, he's one of mine, right? Whatever. She feels validated by that, or whatever. I don't know, right? Uh, whatever way it will play out. But for some reason, we bond over Labubu, and because I faked showing or because I showed an interest in something that they're interested in, which is what this guy is suggesting. Okay, let's say I did that. Now what? Now you're sleeping with a bitch that's interested with Labubu, and even worse, she thinks that you're interested in Labubu. What does that mean? She's like, well, he responded previously to Labubu, therefore, I'm going to talk to him about what? About fucking Labubu. Alright, okay. Um, uh, so basically, now you have created a relationship based on false interests or faked interest. And question becomes is why? Why did you do that? Was the pussy worth it? Like, do you realize that by doing that, you potentially prevent your ability to you prevent uh, that person from finding something that you genuinely can connect over. For example, let's say if she didn't see that you had an interest in Labubu and then she started talking about something else, and that something else happened to be an interest of you, and you just reacted naturally, then maybe uh, she would have faked an interest in, or maybe you would have responded with genuine interest, and then instead of talking about Labubu all the time, she's gonna talk about that new interest all the time instead, because that's gonna become a shared interest, right? So first of all, by faking interest, lose, um, you create situations where you actually make it harder to connect with real interests, even if they're had, right? Assuming there is shared interests, which there likely are, maybe. But if there isn't shared interests, then you're just getting into relationships. And the question is like, why? Why do I need someone over by showing interest if my natural response isn't to show interest in that specific thing? Because there is no interest to show. So like the whole formulation of to win someone over, show interest, uh, is really retarded. Like in a way, what he's saying isn't wrong. He's completely correct. To if you want to win someone over, show interest. But is what he's saying useful? No, no, it's not. In reality, it should be more like don't suppress your responses. If you and that and through that you will show interest when you are interested, and you will show lack of interest when you're not interested. And uh, I will go you one step above, which is like when you like someone, they will see that and like you. And respond positively. Let's just say that. Unless they have like severe mental illness and they want to be treated badly, which is a lot of people. But when you like someone, they'll see that uh, and respond positively. The same applies to dates. If they see that you positively react to, if you show interest to their hobbies, like how should I say, if you genuinely like someone, like really, really like someone, you will show interest. You will, because you will have a genuine interest. Like, I don't know how autistic this has to be that I need to explain this. You don't need to go out of your way to show things that exist. For example, let's say you're a muscular as fuck guy. You look like fucking a Greek god, a Greek statue. You don't need to go out of your way to show people that you go to the gym. Your body speaks for itself. And it's kind of the same with people. When, based on how you kind of like, the atmosphere you create, the kind of responses you create when you're interacting with those people, will leak how you feel about them, and that will change how they will feel about you. Generally, we as people do have a bias to, liking people that see us in a certain way. That not necessarily, not always ones that like us, but ones that see us in a certain way. And for healthy people, yes, it's people that do like us. So this whole idea from expert is so fucking stupid. And most of you will sit there and be like, he's right about that. He's so smart. And you'll sit there and you'll be like, next time I'm on a date, I'm gonna start smiling and like making eyes water to fake interest. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Do you understand how fucking pathetic and stupid that is? Bro, get a hold of yourself. What the fuck is that? And you're sitting there, actually sitting there thinking that this guy gave you like pretty good advice. Like that's what I hate the most about these people. You go into any form of comment section and you look down, it's like anecdotal evidence after anecdotal evidence of why this is good take. Is that because it's a good take, or because you guys are fucking want to feel socially validated by agreeing with something that someone of perceived high amount of authority is proposing? I'll let you think about that one, right? So this whole take, it is correct, but to even have this take, you have to be like mentally retarded. And to even say this, you have to be also mentally retarded. And when you go and you're like, this guy's really smart because he seems authoritative, you're also mentally retarded. So the conclusion, this is why I hate people, this is why all of you are mentally retarded. Um, ciao. I don't think there is anything else to clarify. Um, On value, I think I will just touch on it a little bit. I can't be bothered fully explaining it. Basically, I have already explained it pretty well with the professor, actually. The only reason why you attach yourself to those experts and you trust them is because you want to raise your own value. You want to make yourself look better than you actually are. It's as simple as that. And it's not always about doing it socially. Sometimes you could do it to lie to yourself. You're like, oh, what I think and what I'm doing is in line with what this uh, expert has said. And holy fuck, that's pathetic. You're pathetic. Um, Even fucking Leonardo da Vinci had a fucking quote calling all of you out, explaining why you're fucking retarded. Um, and he's very authoritative. So go tank this fucking contradiction in your own brain. I've just told you an authoritative source, Leonardo da Vinci, one of the greatest geniuses recorded, has just said that listening to authority is retarded. At least that's, and uh, I have delivered you that insight or that kind of quote. Of course, I've parsed it in my way of putting it. He put it in different words. And now you get to live with this contradiction. Someone really smart told me that listening to really smart people makes me retarded. Goodbye. Have a nice day. Have a think about that.